Hey guys, today we're making a sticky Asian spare rib. It's gonna be incredible. And we're gonna put a toasted sesame coleslaw with it. It's gonna be just a perfect balance. Stay tuned. And to get us started here, we're gonna start with 2 racks of St. Louis cut spare ribs. Now again, if you wanna use baby back spare ribs, it's completely fine. I just use a St. Louis cut for this. I've cooked them both ways. They both are incredible, so you're not gonna go wrong either way. So let's start by doing some just basic trimming on these. Now again, St. Louis cut, they come pre-trimmed, but I still like to do a little bit of extra trimming just to get them nice and squared up, remove any extra skirt or fat from them, just to get them a little bit cleaned up, better presentation. So let's start with just going on the edge here, and I want to square these up a little bit. This is not a bad side here, but this side, I do want to get some of this off, so we're going to just cut this right off here. And again, I'm not going to throw any of this away. We're going to save this for later. And I'm going to remove a little bit of this fat. A little bit of fat on here is fine, but I like to trim them up just a little bit again, just so my rub is going to stick a little bit better to the meat. And again, just use a basic little fillet knife here, real easy to use, and it does a perfect job. I'm gonna flip this over here, and I'm gonna square this off as well on this side. Again, making sure I don't have any little pieces here hanging off, because those are gonna just burn up in the oven. So that slab is good. Let's work on the second one here. Again, kind of feeling where that rib is on the end here is where I wanna start my first cut. And then the other side, this doesn't look that bad. I'm gonna have to shave some of this fat off though. And again, if this were for a barbecue competition, I'd be taking a lot more time with this, making sure that it's really looking, for lack of a better term, aerodynamic, to make sure that it really fits kind of the overall look that I'm going for. But in this case, this is just a simple, easy cook. We're not gonna worry about that. So again, now we have our 2 perfectly prepared racks of ribs. The first thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna make a rub that goes over the top of it. And again, this is gonna be a sweet rub with a little bit of spice, just a perfect balance. Then we're gonna put it in the oven. So I do have my oven right now preheated at 350 degrees. I'm not gonna cook this on the smoker today. You could if you wanted to. You could put it in the first hour or so and get some smoke on it if you want to. But we're gonna cover this with foil because this has a lot of sugar in it, and with that it burns. And so cook it in the oven with foil on top of it, just comes out better. So that's how we're gonna do it today. So now that our ribs are all trimmed, let's go ahead and put them in a pan. Now in the bottom of this pan I have put foil because this is gonna have a lot of sugar in it. It's going to get a little bit messy, and so if you can put this, put some foil on the bottom of your pan, just less for you have to clean up in the end. Okay, so both ribs on here. We'll put this aside. Let's start making our rub. So in a bowl here, I have 1 cup of brown sugar. Light brown sugar, but you can use a dark if you like to. It's totally up to you. I have equal parts salt and pepper, chipotle powder, chili powder, garlic salt, smoked paprika, and a little bit of cumin. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna mix this together. Just get a nice mixture here. It's real simple. You're just trying to get some of the lumps out of the brown sugar. Okay, now once we've gotten to this point, we can go ahead and start putting our rub on top of our ribs. And what we're gonna do, show you how we're gonna do this. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna put the rub on both sides of the rib. So we'll start with the back. And what I'm gonna do is, if you notice I didn't remove the membrane. I know this is like a 5-hour conversation. Should you remove the membrane? Should you leave it on? We're gonna do something kind of in between today. We're gonna just score it, and that will help us out a little bit with getting our rub on to adhere. Again, cooked barbecue ribs for years in competition. I will always remove the membrane in competition, but when I'm cooking at home, it's just simply not necessary. There's not that much of a difference, and if you score them, there's almost no difference. And to score them, basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some diagonal marks here across the membrane, and don't go too deep. Just wanna make a score across the membrane here and not go too far into the meat, and then we're gonna go crossways on them here. And then here, same thing with this rib. There we go, simple as that. Now, we're gonna take our rub, and we're gonna just put a nice layer of it on each rack here. You could put this in a shaker if you wanted to, but there's really no reason to. It's got some pretty good sized chunks in it. Really hard for it to get out of the shaker with any type of consistency. So again, best tool you have is your hands. Use those. Now, flip our ribs over. It's a good tip as well. Whenever you're putting a rub or a glaze or anything on any type of meat specifically, is do your presentation side last. So this is the top of the ribs, obviously. This is what people are going to see, right? This is what I want to look the best. I'll do this after. So do the bottom side first, then come back and do the top. Get the rest of this on here. And that's just a perfect amount on both ribs here. Kind of push it down, let it set a little bit, and we are good to go. Now, what we're going to do is, again, like I mentioned, we're going to put these in a 350-degree oven. Okay, now that our ribs are in the oven, cooking for a couple hours at 300 degrees, we're going to make the glaze that's going to go on the top of them at the end. Real simple to make. Saucepan. We're going to put 1/3 cup of brown sugar. Again, very much in line with what we did with the rub. 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. 1/4 teaspoon of ginger. 1/4 cup of honey. And I'm actually using an orange blossom honey. I kind of like the way that is on ribs. So, but again, use your favorite honey. We're going to crush 3 cloves of garlic. Again, quite a bit of garlic in here. But again, I like that touch. And again, you can modify this if you want a little less or a little bit more. Make it your own. Now we're going to finish this off with 1/2 cup of soy sauce. Then 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. And lastly, rice wine vinegar, just a tablespoon. And that's all we need to put in here. So we're going to kind of just mix this up. We're going to get it on our cooktop and just get this to a nice simmer. And then once it gets to that point, we'll turn off the heat. We're going to let it cool down before we put on the ribs, because as it cools down, it's going to get a little thicker and a little more sticky, a little sweeter. It's just perfect. Tell you what, you get a great smell from this. You smell that garlic and that ginger and that soy sauce, that sesame, all kind of coming together, giving you that really strong flavor. A little bit of sweetness to it, but again, that really kind of earthy flavor as well. And this is what you're looking for. Just when it starts to get just that little bit of a very soft boil, basically, or a slow simmer on there, that's when you want to go ahead and let this go for about 5 minutes. Keep an eye on it though. Make sure you don't walk away, because again, it does have sugar in it. It will burn. Wow, it smells so good. Okay, good. So we're going to go ahead and take that off the heat. Let's start on our coleslaw. It's going to pair perfectly with these ribs. So we're going to start with a couple things here. So we've got 2 heads of cabbage here. We've got 1 purple and 1 green. And so we're going to chop these up. And the easiest way to do this really is to chop. I chopped them in half already. And we're going to chop them in half again. I'm going to come back and we're going to remove the root on both. And then what I like to do from here, you can just one of 2 ways. You can either cut it right like it is here, okay? Just start slicing it. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can just basically kind of take them apart into like 2 pieces and kind of flatten them out a little bit and then start chopping. Orange, a yellow, and a red. We're going to put all 3 of these in there. These are great just to add a little bit of contrasting color, so that's never a bad thing for coleslaw. Some snow peas. I like adding these in there. This is not something you have to, but again, it does add just another little crunch, another texture to it. They also have a really good flavor, and they hold up well with the dressing. And these, I just basically cut these into smaller pieces. Some smaller pieces, just easier to get into the coleslaw. And lastly, just some pieces of broccoli. This is going to add a little bit, just more of a crunch to it. These hold up well with the dressing as well, so something I like to add. Then I'll just cut those into kind of smaller pieces here, just more edible pieces. Just kind of mix this up a little bit and just give us a little bit of a rough idea of how much we have here. And again, the thought here is really to end up with, again, somewhere between 6 to maybe 8 cups of your vegetables before you go ahead and add your dressing. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and grate 1 carrot in here as well. All right, perfect. And our coleslaw is done except for the dressing. Okay, so now we have all our vegetables chopped for our coleslaw. I'm gonna let that sit. It's gonna get a little bit liquidy just from sitting. So I like to let it sit for about a half an hour. Then I'm gonna go ahead and just drain out some of the excess liquid. Then we'll put our dressing in at the end, but we're gonna make our dressing right now. Start with a small bowl here. In this bowl, we're gonna put 3 tablespoons of olive oil. We're gonna put 1 tablespoon of sesame oil. We're gonna put 1/4 cup of rice wine vinegar. Okay. We're going to put 3 tablespoons of honey. Okay. We're going to put 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. We're going to put a couple cloves of garlic, which I've already minced up just to save time. A little bit of fresh ginger as well. And then a little bit of chili flakes. And we're going to mix. Such a great smell from this. So savory from the soy sauce. You can really get that strong flavor, and again, but a little bit of sweetness from the honey as well. Once that's mixed up, we can set that aside. We don't want to put the dressing onto the coleslaw yet. If we do that, it's going to go ahead and start breaking down the coleslaw. The vinegar and the rice wine vinegar start breaking down the coleslaw, and it's going to get runny. So we do that right at the last minute and let it sit for maybe about 10 minutes before we go ahead and plate everything up and show you how it looks. We're still waiting on the ribs to cook, so once all that comes together, we're ready to plate. And if you like what you've seen thus far in the video, like subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends. Again, the more followers we get, the more content we're able to put out for you. So we have our dressing that we mixed up earlier. We're going to go ahead and just add this to the coleslaw. And again, I like to do this about maybe just 10 minutes or so before I'm actually going to serve it. I'm going to leave a little bit of dressing left out that I'll use at the end when we plate this up. So we're going to go ahead and just mix this all together. And I want to let this sit for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Like I said, let those flavors all kind of infuse. Let that vinegar from the rice wine vinegar do its job on these vegetables and get everything kind of mixed together. Get that perfect flavor. This looks so good. And again, so easy to make. All right, so we'll set this aside. Let's go grab our ribs and let's do that last step, and we're going to put the oven on broil, and we're going to get an even stickier, gooier top on these ribs. Okay guys, our ribs are done, so let's take a look at them and we'll do our last step, and then we're ready to plate this. Wow, it's a lot of juice here. Okay. Now, admittingly, are these the best looking ribs right now? No, they're not. They don't have a whole lot of color to them, but we're going to do one more step, and that's what's going to give it the extra little piece that we want. So we're going to put these back in the oven, but now the oven's on broil. We're going to take the sauce that we made, and we're going to drizzle this sauce over the top of these ribs, put it back in the oven on broil for just about 2 minutes, and then we're going to take them back out, and we're going to repeat the process a second time. Then they're going to be ready to plate. So again, we've let our sauce go ahead and cool, and so it's going to get a little bit thicker, obviously, because of that. So we're going to go ahead and just brush the top of these. And you can put quite a bit on here. Don't be afraid to load it up a little bit, but make sure you leave enough, because we're going to do this twice. Again, this is why we want this to thicken up a little bit. If it's too thick, then it won't go on, won't stick to the ribs. And if it's too thin, same thing, it'll just run right off. And we don't want that. We want these to sit on top of the ribs. That broiler can get that nice color we want. I think that looks pretty good. Back in the oven on broil, 2 minutes. And they are done, and look how great those ribs are. Again, 2 coats on broil, 2 minutes for each coat, just to get that little bit of a color and a little bit of, let some of that sugar caramelize on the top, makes them perfect. These racks look great. Let's go ahead and cut these up. Let's get a taste. Let's plate them up and show you what it looks like with our coleslaw. Okay guys, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut up a few green onions here. We're gonna put some of this in our coleslaw, because I do like a little bit of this on the top, and then some on the ribs as well. And how about a little cilantro as well? Let's plate this up, but first, let's give it a taste and see how these came out. They look incredible. Okay, let's see what we got here. Look at that. I mean, just perfectly done, juicy as can be. I mean, just juice dripping off them. Perfectly sticky on the top. They're just perfect. Such a good looking taste and bite. So we're gonna get a taste here and see how they taste. Oh wow. Oh wow. These are so good. So easy to make. They take a little long to cook, but the prep time is less than 30 minutes to make this entire meal. Just a perfect bite too. Just perfect. How about some of that coleslaw? A little bit of cilantro, a few green onions to this coleslaw as well, like I talked about. We'll mix it up here. And you know, for summer, what a great color too, right? I mean, look at that. Just a phenomenal color to this coleslaw. It just looks so good. Color from all the vegetables, just perfect. Oh, the crunchiness of the vegetables, just perfect. Guys, you can make this so easy to make and so good. You can knock this thing out in absolutely no time. We're gonna finish this off with some sesame seeds on the top and a few more green onions, but this is just perfect. Exactly what I thought it would be. And I like it with the St. Louis ribs versus using the baby back ribs, which is what I normally would use. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and make sure you hit that post notification bell so you get notified whenever we put out a new video, which is every week. And don't worry about if you didn't write down any of the specifications or the recipe. All the ingredients, everything we use is in the description down below, like with every video. And make sure you follow us on our other social media channels, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. And remember, with IQ Barbecue, everyone can be a genius in the kitchen. I'm gonna get back to these ribs. Have a great day.